I know one of the topics that we did want to talk about baseball-wise was this conversation around pitchers and control. And, there's the old school saying these guys don't know how to pitch. There's the new school saying, well, they're just better now. What are you talking about? They can go out there and do anything and do more than what those older generation pitchers could do. And actually, I think Carlos Pena on MLB Network had this discussion just today on this whole conversation around pitching discipline and what to make of all of it. So let's play that clip real quickly.
Did the Red Sox see something? What happened to Chase Burns?
There was some talk about him tipping pitches, which is interesting. And you saw this stuff going on, like, hey, maybe he's closing his glove a little bit too much on the slider. Then he keeps it a little bit wider on the fastball. But let's go ahead and just take a look at the fact that he was throwing fastballs out over the plate, and he did not sequence well. See, I'll say this until I'm blue in the face, and I hope this becomes a banner, for pitchers. It is not about better stuff. It's about utilizing your stuff better. I mean, you can throw 100 and still get lit up. You can have the nastiest slider and still get lit up, because it's about pitches working in synergy. It's about sequencing. It's about tunneling. It's not about just throwing gas. How many examples do we have of guys throwing 100 miles per hour that get hit? Your margin for error is larger if you have great stuff, John, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that you're going to succeed just because you throw absolute gas.
So I agree with Carlos in saying it's not about how great your stuff is. It's how do you make your stuff better, right? That was the kind of line around that. Because at the end of the day, you have better stuff, you can get away with more. But that's been a problem nowadays when you're looking at velocity versus off-speed pitches. Yeah, there are guys that are spinning it more than ever before. And spinning it, we're talking about breaking balls, curveballs, sliders, and throwing harder consistently. The average fastball velocity's up. I mean, heck, you're watching Felix Bautista pumping 99 and 20 straight fastballs or whatever it was by people, whatever, 15. So there is something to that, but each pitcher is different, right? And Zach, this conversation and the highlight that you just saw, Chase Burns just called up for the Reds, right? Mm-hmm. And in this case, they were saying he might have been tipping his pitches, which is a whole different conversation. But Chase Burns has got electric stuff, and the dude throws hard. But I think the point was velocity and great stuff is not going to equal success if you don't know what you're doing with it.
Yeah, and, Carlos Pena was talking about it there, and, the conversation continued about, okay, was he tipping pitches? And he's like, yeah, maybe he was. Maybe the Red Sox, saw something that, with his glove, whether it was open a little bit more, whether it was tilted up a little bit more flat for different pitches. But his point was he hung fastballs. Like, whether they knew it was coming or not, yeah, maybe they had a better opportunity to hit it because they were like, okay, I think a fastball's coming here. But at the end of the day, he's saying, hey, you threw hittable fastballs. Just because you threw it 98, 99, 100, it's still a fastball down the middle. If it's over the plate, these guys are good enough to, okay, they know the speed it's coming in. They've adjusted to the timing. And then if you hang a fastball, it's probably going to go a very long way. So, yes, it is about maybe he's got to work on tipping his pitches less, but it's about also execution. I mean, if they know a fastball is coming, but you paint it on the corner, if they know a changeup's coming, but you have it drop out of the zone last second, like, it still can mess with you and it can still have success, maybe not as much success since they know it's coming. But I don't think him tipping pitches makes, is the reason that he only got through one out in the entire game. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he threw some pitches over the plate and the Red Sox didn't miss.
Yeah, and that's the bigger part of this. If you can't set hitters up, right, Kevin, if you can't set hitters up, they can hone in on that pitch. So if you can't throw your curveball or slider for a strike, I can gear up for the heater. And that's actually what I did at times. If I knew that a guy in warmups or I saw that pitch out of the hand and I could tell myself, hey, I recognize it, don't swing, because he doesn't have control of it. Well, guess what? A weapon that would be the heater. In that case, Chase Burns has a weapon for the heater. You can go, well, you know what? I'm going to gear up even more for this because I can, and vice versa. and I got one example, but Kev, like that's just when you're looking at some of these pitchers. Actually, Grayson Rodriguez was a good example when he came up to Baltimore in 2023, right? Grayson has good stuff, and people are going, whoa, why is he getting lit up? Well, if you hang a breaking ball and you throw a fastball right down the dish, I don't care how good your stuff could be. You don't locate it, you're going to get lit up. And he did, made an adjustment and got back on track, right? It's all about understanding what you have to do.
Right. And you took the words out of my mouth, where you can be the best pitcher in baseball. If you're telegraphing your stuff, or there are little tells that hitters can find out about you, they're going to gear up for it. And these are professional hitters we're talking about. They can hit that off of you. And I think it's honestly really amazing how baseball is full of just these little nuanced things where, one tiny little thing can be the difference between, a win and a loss almost. And we've seen that with a lot of these guys. So again, I think typically with younger pitchers, you can see something like this. And, these hitters have been in the majors sometimes for 5 years, 10 years. These vets who know how to specifically, especially going over scouting reports and game plans and watching film, watching tape, honestly, in all sports, there are things like that. So, it happens. It doesn't take away from how good these guys are, but it's something you do have to figure out, because if you don't, players will make you pay for it.
Yeah, and also in this case, is Jabba, you're asking when you're on the on-deck circle, are you looking for those sort of things, in the scouting report and being on deck, there's two things that I think all hitters should focus on. And again, I'm trying to do it in hindsight of things I wish I could have done better. My problem was, Dave, which these guys have known, the mental side emotionally. How could I keep my emotions in check when things were going wrong? And how could you get out of your head? But when things were going right for me, I understood how to assess and watch what the pitcher's strengths and weaknesses were and what they could throw and what their tendencies were. So the scouting report could give you a good idea, right? But that day, if that pitcher doesn't have that pitch, not going to worry about it as much. Or I'm a lefty and he's throwing the lefty who is hitting in front of me, similar style. I'm going to maybe see how he does it. And then if he pitches to me one time, I'm going to remember that for my next at bat, right? You're constantly thinking. Pitchers need to do the same thing when they're on the mound. So since, Dave, you're here and you can be my test subject with this, just for some over or under numbers, there's a pitcher named Ranger Suarez on the Phillies. He's pretty damn good, okay? He's got a 2 ERA right now on the season, 7-2. He averages under a strikeout an inning, but maybe this will be a good an example for people to understand why I'm using Ranger Suarez. So, Dave, over or under average fastball velocity for Ranger Suarez, 92.5.
Over under.
Over
I
under.
have to say over.
Well, you're 0 for 1 right now.
Damn
his
it.
average fastball on his sinker is 90.5, and then his four seam is 92.
Gosh.
How about that? How many
Everybody
pitches?
registering 98s these days? He's throwing 90.
Yeah, honestly,
Wow.
right? Yeah. So here's the thing. Over under his pitches. Over under, he has 4 pitches in his arsenal.
And an under 2 ERA.
Mm-hmm. Over or under, how many pitches he throws? Different types of pitches.
I'm going to say under.
Over. 0 for 2, Dave. You know what?
3 now.
Yeah, you're doing great. I don't care what
I can
Zach
make a good
is saying.
cocktail, though.
You can, and that's your saving grace.
It's all the
Thank God.
And that's your saving grace. But Ranger Suarez has 6 different variations of his pitches. He has 3 different fastballs and 3 different off-speed pitches. But it's a guy that only throws 90.5 miles an hour, average on his sinker, 92 on his heater. So what's that telling you? He's locating his stuff. There was an at-bat the other night where Matt Olson's one of the best left-handed hitting first basemen in the game. And Matt struck out, and Ranger's walking off the mound laughing at him. Like just laughing. And Matt says something back in his mind. And essentially what I took it as is that Ranger had him domed up. He had him thinking so much about what he's going to do. And that's why Ranger's having success. He had a 3.46 ERA last year, very solid year, already off to another great start this year. But the point being, you don't have to throw 95 to have success. But if you don't, you got to know what you're doing. And if you throw 95 and above, how do you maximize that? Because you can be good to great or good to average or below average just by understanding how you pitch. Does that make sense to everyone here's active? Am I
Yeah,
making
making-
sense to you
You're
over
making
there?
sense.
I am.
Yeah, it's not just it. And it's like what Carlos Pena was talking about. It's not the quality of stuff; it's how you use your stuff. So you can have, we've talked about guys who throw 101, 102. It's over the heart of the plate. It's over the heart of the plate. Some of the best pitchers, they throw 102, but it's when you're looking 102 and they hit you with an 85-mile-an-hour changeup off the corner, and you're diving, you have no chance, and they make you look silly. It's that kind of mental stuff, like you were talking about with Ranger Suarez, Matt Olson. Matt Olson, I can tell you this right now. I don't know if he went up again. I know he was 0 for 2 at that point. Not sure if he got a third at bat, but he went up there like that next at bat. If he goes up, do you think he's feeling any confidence going up against it? Like,
Hell
it is
no.
such a mental game
Hell
where
no.
it's like, hey, yeah, this guy's only throwing 90, but I can't touch it. I don't know what's going on. He's just, he's got you beat. He's got you beat in the mental game, and it's not just, he physically outpowered us. He knew how to pitch. We didn't know it was coming.
And here's the other part. Jacob deGrom's on the mound for the Rangers tonight. Jacob deGrom can throw heaters out the wazoo left and right, and you can know he's probably going to throw you a heater, but he's just going to dot it, and you got no shot. Like, that's what makes those great pitchers special. DeGrom throws fuzz, but he also at the same time can locate the hell out of it.